What's up, guys? Welcome to the TCG Scrubs podcast. Today, joined with was it Panic Monger or some whatever Colin?
It's if you want to use the official title, it's Colin: the Panic Monger. You type it out.
Unfortunately, Joey couldn't join us immediately. I think he's running late, so he'll be here later. You see a hard cut. We'll have him added in on the call once I see he's online. But thank you guys for joining us, and as always, make sure to check out all our sponsors and everything that we do here. Visit Happy Little Hook Factory. Link in the description down below. You guys can find pre-orders for the next set, the Alice Origin set. They have a ton of them. Make sure you go pre-order that. You can also find Caster Chronicles. They restocked on Polar Knights. And they have, the sale going on for casters as well. I'm trying to remember all of it.
They had moved all of their caster singles off of TCG Player, so they're exclusively on their website as well.
See, I was on a roll, and I was going to be like, bam, bam, knocking everything out, and Colin's like, I want to talk to...
Well, I knew you'd forget it.
No, I was about to start saying exactly what you just said. And I was going to mention the 30% off.
Yes.
If you order caster singles through their website.
And that's automatically applied at checkout. You don't need a code or anything like that. It's automatic.
Right. You can also find the European promo dual stones. If you guys remember that, like Dark Alice was on was it Scorched Bales, I believe it was. Those are going for 20 a piece, so those are on sale as well. I know I want to at least grab one of them because I've not gotten the Dark Alice yet, so I want to make sure to grab one of those.
Yeah, I need to grab some as well. Hopefully
upgrade your
Epic Stories deck, yeah.
But yeah, again, guys, definitely click those links in the description below. That definitely helps. It lets them know that when you sent you over, it helps the channel out a great deal. So we appreciate for those who do click on it. Also to patreon.com/TCG Scrubs, where our patrons help us in upgrading equipment and things like that. And you may be like, well, what else are you going to upgrade? Well, if you guys haven't seen, and it may not be the best of examples, but the TCG news of last week that Colin did was with the new camera, and the mic didn't work. He had technical difficulties with that, as well as I think some of the encoding on the videos. But the better example is actually on Argent News. As crazy as that is, like check out that one for just a second, where it's like it's 4K and the mic was working and everything was perfect.
It's not 4K. It's rendered in 4K, but it's not actually filmed in 4K. That'll be hopefully my next news I do will be in 4K and have the higher frame rate. But that one, it was filmed in 1080 but rendered in 4K. So because I wanted to stress test my system, make sure I can run it all. But that has the correct audio as well as what the audio should sound like for the most part. I was still having blowout issues with the mic, but I think I, for the most part, was able to correct them in post. It's 100 times better than I think it has been either way. But the one thing I was trying to do, and because you might be wondering why film it in 4K at 60 frames per second and all that stuff, I just want to see what is like the maximum quality I can consistently do the news at, because that's really I really enjoy like having a really nice polished final product. I don't enjoy when it doesn't look that great, so I'm trying to see what is like the top notch I can get, and with the patrons' help of being able to get the recent equipment, I'm actually able to do some of the stuff I've been wanting to do for a while.
Yeah, it'll be some cool stuff that we can do with a lot of things that we've gotten. And if I guess at any point it's too much, let us know that too, because I'm sure there's a bit of over the topness that could be toned down just a little bit, right? Like not 4K or 60 frames per second or something.
Well, you don't have to watch it in 4K. It's optional. Most people won't be able to because they frames? Have. Oh yeah. You can actually tone that down as well. It's in the YouTube settings.
Yeah.
But I think it looks smoother, and I think it. I could be wrong, but I feel like that'll help with some of the green screen clipping as well, because there'll be less motion blur drag. But we'll see. I gotta test it, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess rolling straight into the podcast, I do know that we had a few things to discuss. I know that one, we're going to touch on your last news you did. There's a comment you wanted to discuss. Also, at the end of the podcast, like last 10 whatever minutes, I don't know how long it is, we're going to... was it ARG Championships happened this weekend?
Argent Saga.
ARG's company, well, I don't know. Argent Saga Championships happened this weekend, and I was watching her stream, and I had some opinions on it and take some shots at that. So you guys, for Force Will, if you're here for just that, you can hear me make fun of them or just tune out. No, it's no offense taken. I get it. I just wanted to, make fun of them somewhere.
Yeah.
See them improve that what they have going on over there. But you wanted to go ahead and So your latest news came out,
Oh.
and you had comments on it, right?
Yeah, and also real quick, one point, because it was something I wanted to mention, just as a quick side note before we get into the main news, was because you and I this past weekend had organized my cards, and
Oh yeah.
there's one thing interesting that I noticed, and I'll be curious if you guys noticed this, whether it be with Force War or Casters, but I specifically noticed this with Caster Chronicles when we're organizing. We're shuffling through the cards. You know how you have a stack, and you use your thumb to shuffle through the cards, going through them, and we're doing that to pull out the foils, and it was super interesting going like shoot, 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 and all of a sudden it'd be like bleh,
Yeah,
bleh.
it's like it's not smooth. It's like missing a layer of like gloss or laminate, whatever you want to call it. Like
In the past couple sets, whenever they switch printers, yeah, it's definitely different. I mean, luckily it still kept the same artist quality, and the print quality itself still seems fine. It's just that sort of whatever is the finishing on the card, as well as the texturing being gone, which I was reminded going through the cards and looking at the old texture cards how good the texturing was in Casters. Like, holy crap, that was top notch. And so I really hope maybe after what this cluster, I'm not sure how Caster works, but whatever this series is they're working on is done, if it's successful, I'm hoping that maybe they can go back to that higher quality stuff, because I would pay extra money for a booster box with the same amount of booster packs if it was that same quality that like the Magical 7 Star Deck and stuff was back in the day.
yeah.
But it's something interesting I noticed. I'd be curious if anyone else has come across that with Force Will, with some of their back and forth on their different printers or casters. It's just an interesting thing.
Yeah,
But-
I have theories too. Tinfoil hat theories I want to talk about later, like pack possible distribution going. Like nothing like we know anything on the inside. I was thinking about it. I was thinking about all week, and I was like constantly like looking at numbers of stuff. But we'll talk about that later. But
Yeah. So there was a comment on my recent TCG news that I just wanted to address real quick and sort of go back and forth relatively quickly, hopefully. If you guys want to see exactly what I'm talking about on the recent TCG news, you can just scroll down. When I clicked on it, it's the very last comment from the username is Svita Yun. Is the username, and it's a very long paragraph, so you'll be able to find it pretty quickly. And they had done a comment, and I did a response, and then they replied, and I was going to go reply to that one because it was pretty reasonable points they had made. I actually don't remember. I'm not going to be addressing that second comment they made. And then they did a third comment, which did a whole bunch of stuff and accusations, and I didn't reply to that because I felt like that'd be better to address, both because there's a lot to address there, and just in case anyone else has similar feelings, maybe I haven't conveyed stuff correctly or as good as I've wanted to, so I think it's good to address it in general. So the first thing, just in the first comment I'll address real quick, is she had mentioned in the news how she felt that I couldn't be pleased with no matter what Force Will did, in the sense that I had said that with the 80 Memorial cards and 67 new cards, if the 80 Memorial are the reprints that also aren't legal in New Frontiers, as sounds like it might be, that if they do too many in a pack, you're going to be flooded with all these dumb reprints that aren't legal and you can't do anything with them. And if they do it one per pack, that defeats the whole point of a reprint, because a reprint is you want to get cards to people who otherwise wouldn't have them, and if it's one per pack, then that defeats the whole purpose. And at 80, I was talking to Oscar about this, I think, earlier separately, that if they had done maybe like 10 cards and they were like special with the updated theme and maybe a special stamp or border or something like that, that would be cool because it becomes almost like a chase card. But at 80, it's just flooding everything and all that. So my point was that at the quantity of 80, in my opinion, we'll wait and see what Force Will does, but I think it's a lose-lose. There's nothing they can do. And my point wasn't that no matter what Force Will does, I can't be pleased. My point was the original issue of the 80 cards is what my main point was, and that should have been shrunk. 80 is too many. So it wasn't that I can't be pleased no matter what they do. It's that I was just branching off of the original theme that I was upset about, and why now Force Will's got themselves stuck in a corner. But that led to, I replied to that, and then, like I said, they did the first reply. I don't have full memory of that, but I'm going to skip that. But the
I'll comment on that for 1 second. Is like it's like some people within the community is like who kind of, I don't know, they get mad or get like flustered about it. Like, oh, you're complaining about it. Stop complaining. It's like, well, us complaining about the buy 2 box promo. It looks like it's gone. It's like, so if we don't complain about this, is it they gonna keep doing it? Like, should we be very vocal about it? You know, are they listening? Like, that's kind of this weird thing that goes back and forth on it. I see it in different things, like the Pokemon game coming out, Sword and Shield. It's like people are angry that the whole national dex isn't available. It's a partial dex, and like people are like, well, who cares? Stop complaining. Don't play the game. It's like, no, you need to complain. You need to your voice to be heard so that things can change. Hopefully, going forward, that's what causes a lot of the changes to happen. Hopefully, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, she had said that I'm just going to go real quick and do quick responses to each of these, and if you want to jump in, Oscar, feel free to just interrupt me. But they said the main issue is that I sit on the stance of a reporter and claim to be a disinterested party in the matter, which I don't know if I've ever fully claimed that. I'm try to be as disinterested as I can, but I still obviously inject my opinion, and I usually differentiate that by what I'm personifying in the sentences I'm saying. I switch from "this is" to "I think" and stuff like that is what I usually try to do. If I'm really tired, I might forget to do that sometimes. So, but I don't think I've ever claimed to be super disinterested. I don't think it's physically possible to be disinterested in a game that I play and very much like. In the same way that I'm of the opinion, not to get too into it, but I'm of the opinion that there's no such thing as any news reporter in any medium that is disinterested. I don't think that's physically possible for almost anything. But anyways, so obviously she says that I'm not disinterested party, which I would agree with. And if I've stated that I am, someone should point it out, which case I would probably retract that and say, yeah, I'm definitely not trying to be disinterested at this point. She said, and she gave the example of when, quote, other games, unquote, have massive print issues. I chalk it up to, that's not the maker's fault. We know it's the printer's fault. But even now, with what should be seen as good news about a second print run of Decisive Battle of Valhalla, I must throw in my negative spin that they may screw it up like last time they did a second print run. Not the printer's fault here, the company. Which is that one's just straight up a false dichotomy, because Argent Saga, I literally created a list of all the print issues and did lay at least some blame on the company, because I felt like with my tiny bit of research I was able to very quickly figure out the print company they used is known for not being that great. But I also did give Argent Saga a little bit of benefit of the doubt, because this is their first booster box ever, just period, ever. So it's like, okay, I'll give them one booster box cushion. And in response to the print issues, they completely halted all production of the set at the printer, like just stopped it, went and got a wave 2 out within a couple weeks of correcting everything. So that's the difference, is they had listened to community, stopped, fixed the mistake, and it's also a mistake from the first run, which I'm gonna, if this exact mistake happens next cluster of Argent Saga, then I'll treat them identically to Force Will. But there's that difference. And with Force Will, I didn't say, oh, I'm gonna hate if the company does a second print run. My point was that I'd be disappointed, because I loved this recent print run's print quality, and I'd be very sad if they do what they've done with every second print run in history, which is cut corners essentially, which is understandable. To be fair, I completely understand why they would do that. I'm just expressing that it would be really cool if they didn't do that. I'm not actually mad at the company for using the cheaper printing method for the second print run. Yeah,
and to add on to that, like, we never did YouTube stuff when we played Pokemon, or else everybody would have been like, oh yeah, no, Colin, you used to crap on Pokemon all the time. The company, like, why would you print this? Like, Seismitoad and, was it Seismitoad, was it Crushing Hammer? And then stuff to recover those cards. I forget all the things, but
yeah,
it's just like constant
and
loops.
How weaknesses work. Yeah, that Seismitoad literally, I told Oscar, is literally one of the reasons that I felt comfortable switching to Force Will at the time. I just wasn't having fun playing at actual competitions with that card, and I was pretty much everything is similar to watching a GP in Force Will, where I'm like, another Sherry. It was the same thing with Pokemon. It's like, okay, another Seismitoad list. Oh, they put something else on the bench. Whoa, that's crazy.
And it was like, oh, Colin, it's not Seismitoad. It's like, oh, what is it? It's Night March.
Yeah, and it sucks because I played Charizard Pyro, which is weak to Seismitoad, which just added insult to injury. So I was very vocal about that. But I was also vocal how much I loved Pokemon's full art texture cards. And if they ever printed a set or a second print run of a set that the texture was just flat, I'd be very vocal about how I didn't like that. So it's it's just a card game theme for me in general. I know what I like and what I don't like, and I don't like Seismitoad and Garbodor. God, that was toxic. Pun intended. But that Seismitoad Garbodor is probably more toxic than most things Force Will has done, just because you don't get to play. But anyways, I'm doing what here we go. This is my favorite part. You're doing what you always do. You're working with zero solid info about Memorias in the new set, what they are, how they distributed, their playability, and you're spreading panic. You are a panic monger. There it is. I've never heard of a panic monger.
They're a title. Panic monger.
Maybe that'll be the title of this podcast. So, zero solid info. That's obviously incorrect. We didn't pull this out of my butt. It's literally a post from a distributor. So the distributor could be incorrect. Obviously, we are literally not going to get confirmation from the company until the set comes out. So we have nothing to go off of outside of what we can hear from distributors. So it's not zero information. It is higher up information, at least from what we can tell. And so we're going to go on that assumption until it's proven otherwise. Unfortunately, that's just how it is right now. And it's what we had speculated all anyway with the title Memorial. The first thing I said was, this is probably reprints. Oscar can attest to that.
Yeah, I remember that. I also was wanting to address, like, when we've done a lot of the news things, a lot of the podcast stuff we do, it's like I say this so many times. I don't even know if the message gets to people, or if it's just in one ear, out the other one. But, like, we get messages, we get comments, we get all sorts of things since we started this channel. It's like, there is a large community who just does not use Facebook. Same thing is, maybe they don't use Facebook, they use Twitter. Maybe they don't use Twitter or Facebook, they use Discord or Reddit. The point is like, it's like a lot of these people will use at least YouTube, and that's where they get the content. Like, they've come to us and like, oh, wow, thanks. I don't use Facebook. I got the information from you here. And it's like not necessarily like always like it's news, as in like, this happened, this guy's telling us the truth, I'm mad, or something like that. It's just like, this was said. If this is the case, this sucks.
Yeah,
but
it's conveying information.
And if it changes, like, obviously we're going to do another news thing. It's like, hey, guess what? The Memorials, you can use them. Cool. Okay, I was a little worried. You know what I'm saying? Like, that sucked at first, and now it doesn't suck as bad type of situation. But I just always wanted to comment, like, there's just people who don't exist on so many social media platforms. You got to hit all the bases everywhere.
And if we're being honest, it's no different than when Jordan was doing the live streams and I was doing the news for that, and we would be playing off news, and it was straight up just lies and stuff like that Jordan would say. Mm-hmm. It's no different, except I feel like this is more reliable information than Jordan was. So real quick, we're more interested in getting clickbait to get more views than actually reporting on facts. That was the kicker for me, because one, the literal title of the video she's saying that on is TCG News CR Update ? Erratas, DBV reprint, and more. No mention of memorials or anything. I intentionally kept that out of the title because, like she mentioned, it's not 100% confirmed, so I didn't want to be clickbait. If you look at most of our videos, I usually go out of my way not to do clickbait unless it's like sarcastic. Like in my head, sometimes it'll be funny to do stuff. It might not come across that way, but usually in my head, it's really funny me doing like fake clickbait titles.
Yeah, like, and I'll admit that I'm not the best person at creating titles. I'm always referring to Colin or Joey and trying to get ideas. Like, hey, what are we calling this podcast? You know, like TCG Scrubs attacked ? And like cracking jokes, and like we'll think it's funny to ourselves. But I guess like I messed up this year's April Fool's joke pretty bad. I thought it was hilarious. Like, State of Force of Will, and people would think, ooh, what's this? Click. And the message was completely misinterpreted. Like, oh, ha ha, empty chair, game stagnant, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I was like, oh no. The day after April Fool's Day, I went and edited the title and just put April Fool's joke, and then the rest of the title remained the same. Like, I just put
I remember that.
And but Joey had made a good point. Like, just name it after the fact. After all the comments came in, like, oh, we should have named it Players Who Could Beat Ryan Miles. Like, boom, that's hilarious. You watch nobody.
That would have been way better.
I was like, God, why didn't we think of something like this before? But like, it's just something that, you know, it happens. We're making tons of money. It's like, oh man, we got them with that clickbait. Got 200 views on that news. Man, we're raking in that money.
Spoiler, yeah. The video she commented on still has not broken 400 views. We very rarely break 400 views, which means that we probably make like $1 or something per video, maybe a little bit more. I don't remember exactly how it works, but like if you go to ones where I think I've maybe done one. I remember talking to Oscar of doing a clickbait title to see how it went. There's not like a view difference. It's like 50 views if I were to do a clickbait title or image, unless it's the only time people click on it is if it's an actual subject they're interested in, regardless of what the title and stuff like that is. So like it's not like we don't break 1,000 views on videos. We're not actually making money off of YouTube. Any money we get from YouTube and Patreon and all that goes 100% into the channel. We still spend more money on the channel than we get in. We literally are losing money on the channel because we're just passionate about what we do here. So clickbait does literally nothing for us. We're not going to have... We're never going to be like Ruler School with 9,000 subscribers. We're aware of that. So there's no reason to like sacrifice our integrity with clickbait stuff. But... That went a little longer than I wanted for that part, but
good points to get across.
Yeah, and so we report on speculation and not by company insiders. Not true. I usually just don't say when it's from company insiders or people who are familiar with company insiders, both from their request and stuff like that. Because some of the information, if I said I got it from someone, I got it from an unnamed source. There's only like 2 people that could be from that. So. I just won't say that, and I'll say it, and maybe not say that it's confirmed or not, but I'm comfortable reporting it because I know it is confirmed. There's a lot of stuff that I have confirmed, but I would never say that it is or where I got it from and stuff like that. But I do confirm as much as I possibly can with specific types of people. But I do report on some speculation. That's like Oscar pointed out with people not being on Facebook. It's important to get out there. And journalism, you make sure that your source is vetted and accurate. Somewhat, that's half true. You want to make sure as much as possible, but in sort of this is, getting information across, that's not always true. Having multiple non-vetted sources that convey identical information is very similar to having a vetted source. Instead, in every video we do, I dig for all negative rumors that you or anyone else on Facebook can find. That's not true. It just all happens to be negative. But being a little bit jokey, but that just happens to be how it is. Because usually how it was before is official company statements are inherently positive. They're always going to be positive. So without the company making official statements, there's just percentage-wise less positive things to report on because people are going to gravitate towards the negative things and stuff like that, and that's what's going to come out. You're not going to have a distributor come out and be like, oh man, this next set is selling well, because that's a weird thing for a distributor to come out and say, but they will come out and say something slightly negative to try and gauge what the interest would be in the set, so they know how much to order. They'd rather under order than over order type of deal, I would assume. So that's just I think a side effect of the company not talking anymore is why there's less positive things. But I don't go out of my way. I literally read every single post on the Force Will Global group and write it down in a little notepad I have on my computer. She says, I try to cover my bases by saying, but I don't know, I guess we will see, which is a tick I have of just saying that. But it is a tick to convey that it's not confirmed. But yeah, I need to figure out my wording better. I need to realize it hurts the community. I already know it hurts the community, but I've already said to multiple people before, I try not to withhold information just because I think it'll hurt the community. I think I'd rather just report on stuff. That being said, I have withheld stuff and still to this day withhold stuff because I think it doesn't really do anything helpful for the community outside of just hurting it. Whereas stuff like, hey, this next set's going to have 80 reprints is very useful for the community, even if it hurts. I would like to know that as a buyer. And that basically wraps up most of that. But
yeah, and some of the stuff like withheld, like there's been like people like back when Rob had shut the page down and left and was angry and all that, like there was things he said that like were overly negative and unnecessary to express that we did an interview with him that would have just caused more harm than good in the community in a sensitive time where it was trying to transition to a new group. Like things like that. It's like, yeah, I'm not saying half the things that Rob told us. Like, and then on top of that, even the stuff that we did say, people were in the comments were like, "Don't believe what he said. He's lying." So it's like, so hey, maybe he is. So we won't say these little bits he threw in, like, because again, it did nobody good to hear it. So
I mean, not to say that we would have just reported everything. I did check. Like, there's stuff we didn't say or stuff we did say from him that is I can 100% confirm based on other sources. But yeah, like Oscar said, it just wouldn't have done any good at the time. Maybe in the future, depending on things that happen, I could see, or like if something bad happened to Force of Will. I don't want this to happen, but if Force of Will went under, then I'll be like, oh yeah, here's all this stuff. But yeah, in the meantime, there's no reason to.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, as a side note, not that it's super relevant because, like I've said in the past, like it's just a rinky-dink news show for Force of Will but it's not like I'm just flying around blind. I'm aware of how news works and how to properly report it and how I think news should be conveyed. Yeah, because that's something I do in my secondary job. I have my main job, and then for a second job, I do video editing with a news company and a guy specifically. And so I'm aware of a lot of how news works and how to properly vet sources. And that's why have gotten, especially in my previous things I've done and interviews and all that, we've gotten a lot of comments and messages, like a weird amount, I thought, but it was really cool of people saying like, oh, you really like how you guys do your reporting and actually like research and do stuff correctly. It's because I feel like I do stuff good, and I think the only time I get pushback is when it's stuff people don't like. And so I've gotten pushback for doing negative Force of Will stuff because people want to be positive about Force of Will, and reversely, I've gotten pushback about being too positive about Force of Will stuff when people are like, oh, are you just like covering for things and stuff like that? Though not as much for that one, but it's one of those things where I just want to, it might depend on your perspective. If you have information that contradicts what I'm saying, then I would like to know that, and you should come forward with that as well. I'm not discouraging that either.
Yeah. and I was, one last little tip is like, I think on there was like saying how they have people who say they've left the game because of us, and I always want to comment on that one and say like, how many people have we brought into the game? How many messages do we get, comments do we get? It's like, oh hey, thanks, I'm playing the game now, I saw your channel, whatever, I want to start playing, or I was interested, found your channel, I'm now playing because of you. I'm pretty sure that outweighs the ones who have left as a result. Yeah, pretty great.
Yeah, and we've gone quite out of our way to try and bring as many people in as we can, and we've never, that I'm aware of, done a straight call to action to not play Force of Will. In fact, the opposite. The farthest we've gone is maybe saying, maybe wait or be wary of the next set specific booster box coming out and stuff like that. We might have gotten a little bit more negative during the company transition, but we've never done a straight call to leave the game. People are just doing that based on just information that we're sending out. But like, I'm still playing, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm not pre-ordering the next box, but I've never pre-ordered a box, but so hopefully I'll get it. But I'm not going anywhere as far as playing and stuff like that, and I'll be here as long as the game is around. So
yeah,
it's not like I'm trying to like get people out of the game so they can go play a different game so that we can cover that one better, as we've been accused of. It's if you can go look at the views, it's very obvious which game people prefer still from our channel. So, yeah.
But we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. I do see Joey has gotten on. We'll do like a cut or whatever to get him in here. But at the end of the day, if you don't like the stuff on the news, then tell Force of Will to stop doing the things they're doing.
Or message us when you have facts that say otherwise, and I'll be sure to correct myself on stuff I've said in the past.
After you double check some, right?
Yeah, I double check everything that I can double check, but yeah. All right.
So then we're gonna go into the Argent Saga because it was a tournament, right, Oscar?
Yeah. So this weekend was their first ever championship, and it's in Indianapolis, right? Is that correct? And they had 214 players, which was not bad, pretty good.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Beginning card game got over 200 players. It's not. I joked with Connor. I was like, "Oh, it's not year one Force of Will numbers, but it's not bad." the part where it was a little bit like, oh, man, they really can step that up, which I have a feeling they are, because if you've been in the groups at all, which apologies to our forcible listeners, if you guys aren't interested in this, you obviously tune out, but to people who are in the groups, they have like kind of this campaign running where they're looking for commentators. So I have a feeling these are just like temporary commentators, or maybe they're going to rotate them and bring one in, bring one out, and whatnot. But it was interesting. It was just like you'd watch it and just like there was a rant where they went on like, oh yeah, no, the Texas heat is not like Arizona heat. It makes my throat itch or whatever, and it was just like really weird. It's like, okay, cool. Did you see the play? You talk about the plays. They got into one rant at one point where they kind of went back and forth, and then they came back to watching the game. They're like, oh wow, yeah, he's really thinking about this play, isn't he? Like, yeah, no, he's been thinking for a while. It's like, no, if you're watching, the judge walked away, and then you got a second judge to come over. Something happened, or they're figuring out an interaction.
Oh, that would have been cool to know what was going on.
And we had no idea. I mean, they didn't either. I'm not sure if like they'd be paying attention, if they'd figure it out. I'm assuming they would. They'd see some cards played and be like, oh, it's probably going to be this. It's assuming a lot, though. But I don't know. It was just... There's a lot, like, was it fat to cut off of that?
Oscar.
Not saying I'd be any better. You guys saw my stream.
Yeah. You were also saying that one of the top 8s or top 16s, I don't exactly remember. They had a game won and they thought one person won the game, and then it actually turned out that the other guy won the game.
Yeah.
How does that get messed up?
I tuned in about halfway in, or actually halfway into game 2. And they're long games, and they had marked it that Nick Blandon had won game 1, and that the other guy, I forget his name, something with a V, he ends up going to top 2, that he was at the loss, and they're in game 2, and they get a tie, and then they're like, oh, it's a tie, all right, Nick goes on to the next round. And then they're like, oh, hold on, I'll be right back. I'm going to go double check. And then one of the commentators leaves the table, and because like, oh, wait. Apparently, Nick lost game 1. They tied game 2. Whatever the other guy, Vincent, whatever, he's going on to the next round. I was like, oh my gosh.
Which is weird, because Argent Saga, it's not like Forcible where Jeremy has to, keep track of the life points and constantly go back and forth. Instead, just how many cards are turned over. And then if all of the cards are all turned over, who
well, I'll give it to here. A lot of the games ended with like 2 or 3 towers up, and then just a hand goes across the table, and then they shake on it, and then it ends, and they go to the next game.
Yeah, but it's still easier to convey, and you could if you're watching the game and paying attention, it's pretty easy to figure out what's going on.
That the other person is in, and it's like, and they're actually like, conceding. Yeah. I think it's pretty obvious.
I think
it's conceding,
yeah. And then like the next round comes up, which is the finals, and they had the cosplayer on. I think they were asking her questions or whatever, and it's like, okay, cool, thank you for bringing the cosplayer on. Let's get that. It's the finals of y'all's first ever championship. This is a big deal.
Championship.
Let's hear that high level commentating. And instead it was just the cosplayer and one of the dudes, and he's like, you know what that is? And she's like, it's a shard. He's like, no, not quite. What about this one? She's like, oh, those are the shards. The other ones were towers. Yeah, that's it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was looking at chat. Someone's like, are we being taught how to play the game in the finals of this championship?
Yeah, see, this isn't to really rag on the commentators. Everyone has their own style, but for my understanding, there's also a couple things of them. If you're in the championship and you're commentating these things, you need to be aware of high level plays and stuff. And so there's instances of them not understanding what players were doing, and it's because they're higher level plays and stuff like that. But also, you need to be aware. I'm not saying that necessarily, we're any better at this. I have no memory of how good I was at commentating, but. I'll find out coming up with the Argent Saga Regionals at the end of this month. I'll be commentating that, so stay tuned for that. But as a commentator, if there's something going on the game, you want to be portraying that. But if there's nothing going on, you need to be filling that, and not with how cool you think certain fast food places are. You need to be like, okay, while I'm waiting, there's this card on the field. There, let's say
Jim the
it's
Monster.
I don't know. I try to think of. Let's say it's Booster Dragon. No one was probably playing that, but so you could be like, oh yeah, that's a cool card. I used it in my deck. The combo I did was using this and combined with this, and usually you would get this result. They're using it inside of their Ergon deck for whatever reason. So they're probably hoping to combo it with this in order to, and so you start theory crafting to fill in the void. That way people are sort of learning ideas and plays and things to look out for so they can follow it outside of the commentary, and you sort of build that throughout the thing. And then in the championship is when you really want to be like, okay, yeah, no, Nick Blandon, say Nick Blandon is in the finals. Oh, he's done this record so far, and these are the decks he's played against, which means he does pretty good. He did have one loss that was against this and deck, which means he probably has a hard time against control decks, and so it's very important to keep the conversation about the game, to keep the viewers engaged of like, oh, that's a cool combo, I want to stay tuned, maybe I'll see that combo eventually, or oh, that gets me excited, I want to make a deck around that outside of just what they're seeing.
I'll even go forward because I've watched Magic commentaries, and I don't play Modern. I don't play Legacy. I don't play, like, I know the basic, the kind of some of the cards people play in those formats, and I know what I've played in, and so the great thing about like streams and commentators is that they lay out this, the deck, and it's like, oh, this is a Miracles deck, this is what it does, this is how it functions, people like, and then they kind of explain how Miracles wins, like why it's facing what it's facing. And when you do that, what you do is the next time I see Miracles and the next time I see that deck played, I understand what it's doing now. I've gotten like a base view of what it does, and then so like I understand when I watch this deck, I understand what it wants to do, what its game plan is, and then they maybe explain the matchup, or so, and like, and there's all this inner stuff, because this is, ideally you kind of want this to be like a continual build up to the finals, and people want to watch from top 8 all the way to finals. And so when you have those mirror matchups and you have like Aragon versus Aragon or whoever the deck is, like, they want to understand how that matchup plays, and every time you see that matchup on screen, you understand more and more how it's supposed to be played, what the all these intricacies are. And there's just a lot of stuff that, like, commentating is very difficult, I will say that, but the basics that the basic level that you need to be at is just paying attention to the game and being into the game. You can't have tangents in commentary. If they can be like 5 seconds long. But so like me, listening and hearing all this, there's a very watching Magic and watching Modern, like you pick up the decks and you understand what the decks do, and that's what they need to be doing in like these commentary and what they need to be doing.
Yeah. And you need to be, I didn't watch really any of it, but you also got to be excited about stuff as well. Like, the standard I always think of is things like the Pokemon streams. I don't know if they still are good, but how those were in League of Legends streams, where they're constantly excited. It's constantly, they're talking about stuff when there's nothing happening, say in League of Legends, with a beginning phase of the game when nothing's going on. They're talking about like, oh, what could happen, what the players are good at, what they're weak against, how they've done in the past. Not that you could necessarily get all that info for Argent Saga, at least yet, but actually Argent Saga has with the program they use for tournaments, they actually could have access to all of that information of how good certain players are and stuff like that. But being able to pay attention to the game and be
that's
invested in the
minimum,
games. Like you said, Joey,
base minimum you need to be at,
because that's contagious.
And again, like, I didn't watch them. If Oscar was like, hey guys, like, the Argent Saga top 16's on, like, oh, it's been really good so far. They've had a lot of different decks, or the commentators are really good, I would have tuned in. But Oscar was like, dude, guys, these commentators are doing this, and I'm like, well, that doesn't seem very good.
Not just that, but like, backtracking for a second is like, even on a non-professional level, like the way the Magic ones are or Pokemon ones are, like, to go and tune into certain, like, there was this one guy who runs a Dragon Ball Super channel who I've tuned into some of his live streams just to see it, and like it just takes a certain person to be able to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like do it well too. Like you can know the game like in and out, you know, and then go and do it, and you just don't have that personality to really put into it to feel people. Like when I did it with Ryan really knows his stuff. Like I was like mostly amazed half the time, just like, wow, this guy's really going off. This is crazy. But like I just felt like what I was giving wasn't what I wanted out of when I watch a stream. You know what I'm saying? That's why I didn't consider it that great. But
well, and the perfect example is I agree that like for me, I don't think I do very great commentating by myself. I do better with someone else. And the perfect example was we did a test stream for the Argent Saga Regionals a couple weeks ago, which we did no time limits on the games, which was a terrible idea.
That's going to come up in a second too. Keep going.
The shortest game that we did, or shortest round, was an hour and 20 minutes. I think was the shortest one. Longest one was 3 hours or something like that. But we had someone at our locals, Jacob, and he came and helped me commentate for a couple times, and he was great. Like there was a couple other people that would jump on, and it was sort of like, oh, we'll talk back and forth. But when Jacob came on, like his energy was higher, and he, like Ryan, knows every single card and what everyone's decks are and how they play, and so I'm able to better respond and play off of that energy and stuff like that. So it's just different. Like even for me on my own, I do better with a better commentator. Like you sort of elevate each other type of thing. So I think it's very important. The type of commentary, like you said, having Ryan on really helped you because you're able to not only commentate, but you can create conversation by asking questions because you're able to be like, hey, Ryan, oh, they played that. What can we expect from that? Or stuff like that. And he's able to give you legitimate responses and stuff like that. Yeah. Which I really hope we see Ryan commentate Argent Saga, because that would be super cool to get some of his insight, especially if he's like, oh yeah, this is a cool card. It actually went through a couple different design processes. He could give us like behind the scenes. I don't know if they would allow him to, but they would be cool in my head.
Ryan Miles, by the way, is who we keep referring to as Ryan. But speaking of like no time limit, there was no time limit on the final round. And I thought it was hilarious because I was so confused. I was like, I watched it start. I was like probably 5 minutes in, and I was like, I got some stuff to do. I'll check this, the recap later, whatever, the stream. Leave, doing everything. Colin messages something. What'd you say? You said something. I was like, wait, it's still going? They announced it was the final round. What are they doing? Right? What'd you say?
You said something like, wait,
I said
Taco Bell, right?
I thought it was something about.
Yeah, I said they were talking about Taco Bell, and you're like, wait, they're still playing?
Like, oh, I guess must be another round. But I just glanced at the stream still going, and then the stream was still going. And I was like, oh, I wonder if they're doing side events now. And I click it. It was the same two guys. And the finals were still going. And I watched it till the end. It was only like 10, 15 more minutes till it ended. And the guy, one of the commentators, like, hey, what's our time at? Where are we at? 3 hours and 32 minutes just to play that entire series out. Best of 3. It went to game 3.
Which, real quick, I just want to say, going back to commentators, I think it's perfectly fine to go on side tangents during that round.
Oh, yeah, no.
3.5 hours of commentary is just it's silly. I'm fine.
I agree with them that something needs to be figured out from Argent Saga on how they're going to handle something like that, because they said something like, this is not engaging to anybody who wants to come see it, and it's not. You're not going to sit there and like one of the main interactions I was seeing was like the one player's like card 1, card 2, send card here, grab a chant or whatever they call their spells. Okay, you go. Response to your start. Play this, discard that card, bounce that. Okay, and it was a recycle move. It was just making sure that your opponent didn't draw anything. It was the same 3 moves, same 3 cards over and over again to make sure you didn't draw your answers.
Yeah, it's there's similar things happening during the Argent Saga thing. We test streamed of just like both decks. The longest game was these 2 decks that were just these constantly cycling each other's and bouncing stuff onto their opponent's top of their deck, so they're redrawing it and all this different cycling things of just no progress actually happening. They're just doing a lot of this, but none of their units are actually like breaking towers and attacking. And I don't know what to do, because from what I heard, a lot of the tournaments or a lot of the matches also just were 1-round matches, because a lot of these decks are these stall type decks. So I don't know what the core problem is, if it's Ergon or if it's something else that's the core problem, but something needs to be done, not just to make sure that we don't have 3.5-hour games, but so that games don't are actually going to game 2, and ideally also going to game 3 in a best of 3 format. There needs to be something structurally.
I think it's a combination.
I don't know
do
what
agree.
it is, but
Ergon may have come out too soon. I think he would have been a great card down the road. We have 2, 3, 4 sets out already, and he came out because top 16. I think 10 of the 13 decks were, 13 decks were Darkness. Of the 10 of those were Ergon decks. And the finals matches, like, top 3 or 4? I don't know what one of the other ones was. Were all Ergons, Ergon Fizzies or Ergon Kites. So, and he's somebody who's just like, he taps himself. He's the champion, so he's always out. He taps, mills 2, and then he also has another ability of tap him and pay 1, and then you can put a unit to top your deck. So you're just constantly getting your answers and putting them back on top.
Yeah, and if stuff dies, you're constantly recycling back on top of your deck to draw it and play down. So you are just recycling stuff, and then and different things like that. It's one thing I didn't fully grasp until I actually played against it, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it.
That's like, by the way,
it's not a fun.
That like answer, or like that feeling of like, oh, I get it now, is like always us with like really good Force of Will decks too. It's like it's like oh, I see how they're using that card now.
Yeah, if you go tune in to that Bethlehem stream I did, when I first saw somebody go, Layla, alter, private mortality, sack, I was like, what? Ryan, I'm like, that's a thing? I was completely floored. I was like, I didn't even think about that.
Or, I forget, there was something else that way before that, like you were watching a stream and it happened and it blew your mind.
Time walk is what they were calling it, and that was Mosasaurus into time.
Distortion of time. Yeah.
Time dilation?
I remember that too.
Distortion
like,
of time?
especially like, because like the timing of playing Mosasaurus wasn't like what you would think it would be, or it was something like, it was like, okay, I play Mosasaurus, and they double skip turns, and I was like, wait, what? And then and then you finally have it played against you, and you're like, fuck, I get it now. This sucks.
Yeah.
Like, go read the card, and I read it. I was like, oh, it skips the draw phase. Oh no, that revelation for Oscar.
I was like, I've been playing with this deck, and I didn't even know this. I wasn't doing that. It was hilarious. But it was. I was gonna wrap it up, but did you have some?
Yeah.
Okay. It was a bumpy ride. It was their first one. I guess I'll give them the benefit that Colin gave to their booster boxes and say,
don't do that, Oscar. They've had one booster box out. They should know by now how to completely run a TCG. To be fair,
they should know how to run a tournament.
Yeah, like their day posted like, wow, only 6 weeks after the set was released and we already did this giant tournament.
I mean,
it's like, well, yeah, that's what you guys do.
Aside from that finals round and improvement on commentators, I didn't hear any other issues of the event. It sounds like people had fun. It sounds like side events fired off. People were getting cool prizes off the prize wall, getting their shard point value worth.
I was getting Pokemon vibes from it, so I was like,
yeah,
oh, shoot, I really need to go to one of these events. The shard wall, I was like, that's my jam. Being able to like take these shard points and trade them in for knickknacks type stuff is like my dream type of thing. Like when we went to the Pokemon regionals and states and all that, and like going over and be able to buy Pokemon cards from all the vendors and Pokemon plushies, and I got stickers and pins, stuff that I still have on my binder. Like it was a lot great. I love that so much. So I'm pretty excited for that. So I just hope, like, odds are I'll just go play a couple rounds, drop out, and do
Yeah.
side events for the rest
Get
of
your
the day.
prizing,
'Cause
play
I don't want to become a champion and play for 3.5
But I mean,
hours.
if there's one takeaway from where Argent Saga is for any of our Forceful players who are still listening right now, is just that it's one deck right now. Technically, it's an Urgon and its side little spirit is either one of two different things, and it sounds like they win game one and they stall game two time and they move on.
I will say
And that's
that
what most
sounds
records are.
awful.
And it's not like, oh, that just happens. It's not like, oh, that just happens to happen. That's the legit strategy. That's the point of the deck, is to win game one and then purposely stall game two. That's the whole.
That's so crappy.
That's
because
why
you
they
can't
built
even-
the deck
you
the
can't
way they do.
sideboard
That's
against.
how it's
Well,
designed.
maybe you could sideboard against something like that, but like, yeah.
And yeah, the only real solution is to do best of one instead of best of three, which I hate, because we did that in Pokemon for a couple just of our local events, but our local events had like 30 people for a while for Pokemon, and you come against just these cheese decks that are pretty much guaranteed to win game one, but would lose game two and game three hands down. But in best of ones, you just get a bunch of cheese decks with no interaction and stuff like that are annoying. So it's a hard thing to figure out.
We'll see what they do.
But
We'll see what happens in the coming weeks.
for people, we got to, for people who wanted to hear us rag on Argent Saga, there you go. Literally, we're talking that whole time, and I just keep thinking in my head of like different crazy clickbait titles we could do for this, of like, like hating on Force of Will
Argent
and
Saga?
Argent Saga.
Argent
and
Saga?
Argent
Death
Saga
Card
did
Letter?
what?
Colin gets mad at a viewer, or Colin reveals himself to be an asshole. Just different.
But
stuff.
thank you guys for
It's gonna be hard coming up with a title
I'm
for
gonna go
this.
silly with it.
I apologize for taking too long with that first subject. I lost track of time, but I was genuinely trying to go through it quick, but I think I got stuck at the very beginning.
You winded
I think
up
it was
that
most of
like
the time.
that final part.
I went through the rest pretty quick.
Anyways.
Yeah, I wound it up pretty quick. I think it was just that first two or three sentences I got stuck on, which was to be fair, the meat of it. But sorry if that's not what you guys want.
That's I'm gonna wrap it up there and say thanks for joining us. Make sure to visit Happy Little Hug Factory, link in the description below, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.